This is going to be a fun one, okay? Gird your eyeballs, ladies and gents, because today we're talking about Mirio Togata, #1 student at UA, one of the big three, the phasing hero himself, Le Million, which, fun fact, is the only hero in the history of fiction, period, from manga, video games, movies, comic books, don't care, that can tack a giant integer to his chest and somehow make it work. I mean, he kind of looks like a slot machine if we're being honest, but you just don't see that normally. Like, Superman's got the S, Batman's got a bat, Spider-Man's got a spider, but you just don't see. I'm just gonna tack the number 1 million to myself, and he makes it work. I really like it. It's kind of distinctive. And it goes along with his hero philosophy and his goal in life. I want to be the man that can save 1 million people. After that, I guess I can retire. Job well done. I set my goal at 1 million. After that, we're set. No, I'm sure after that, that's just the starting gun. After he saves 1 million people, he'll tack on an extra zero and he will become Le Billion and just keep working his way up that ladder there, okay? So, this video on Mirio is going to be broken up into 2 parts. The first part is going to be spoiler-free. We're only going to talk about the stuff that's been revealed in the My Hero Academia anime. So, at the tail end of Season 3 when Mirio makes his first appearance, and as far as we're into Season 4 right now, with his working at the Night Eye Agency, helping Izuku out, and the beginnings of the raid on Shisake's compound, where we're at right now in the anime. The second part is going to have spoilers out the wazoo. We're going to talk about stuff after this arc and later on with Mirio's character, but I'll let you know when I make the transition over to that part. All right, so first off, can we just admit that Mirio is just such a fun guy? Whether or not you might not like his character 100% or whatever, maybe he's not your favorite, he's a fun character, all right? And I'm so happy that Horikoshi handled the #1 student at UA this way, because you knew that was coming. UA is the best, hero academy in the world, or one of the best. It's where All Might went. That's his alma mater. So I was expecting this. I was like, okay, we're going to focus on Class 1A, the freshmen, because that's where Izuku's at. That's the main cast of the entire story. But I knew there was going to be some really strong seniors and upperclassmen that were going to show up throughout the story. Finally, we get to Mirio at the beginnings of the Chisake arc. He shows up with Hado and Amajiki as one of the big three, and he's the top student. But I was so glad that they handled him the way they did. I was kind of maybe regretting that they were going to do some sort of like, I am a brooding and arrogant character. I am the #1 student, and I am aware of this. You students are all inferior to me. I am the best at this school. I mean, they could have done that, but I'm glad that they didn't. Mirio understands he's the top student, but he takes the responsibility of that on himself. He knows that as the top student, he's like the valedictorian kind of, and the fact that he's about to graduate, it's kind of on him to teach his kohai about, how it is to be a real hero and how to rise through the ranks, because they got all of their school years left, and then after that, they have to become heroes as well. So it's like, all right, I'll beat the crap out of them, but it'll be a learning experience. Yeah, I might be, maybe not necessarily arrogant to use a word, but flashy, dramatic. He is a hero after all, so he's like, all right, I'll take you guys all on at once, 20 on 1 in single combat. I'm single combat. Well, let's see where this goes. And he decimates all of Class 1A, and then he does the epic power poses. And, hey, you know what? Like I said, maybe a little bit too much there, but imagine him fighting a villain in that regard. Imagine him fighting like a giant villain stomping through town, and he beats it down, and then he uses power and just shouts to the heavens, and everybody below him just, everyone cheers for Le Million. I mean, so he's got the aesthetic down, he's got the presentation down, all right? He's just a very over-the-top kind of guy. And in fact, talking about that scene when Mirio went up against all of the poor freshmen that just got completely wasted by this senior, the most impressive thing out of all of that was not Mirio's quirk to me, or his power poses, or, the fact that no matter what the other students do, trying to defend themselves, and just, like, futility. Like, I remember that one scene where Momo, like, she sees Mirio coming at her, and Momo creates a shield, like, oh god, I need to protect myself, and that just goes right through the shield and just punches her right in the stomach. It wasn't even all of that, no. The most impressive thing to me in that entire scene was, what Aizawa said in the background, because Aizawa's there, watching all of the students just get decimated. You know, it's just like, oh man, this is everything must go store closing sale right here. Everybody's just getting decimated. Sans Bakugo, because he wasn't there at the moment. Although I kind of would have liked to see Bakugo go up against Mirio. He would have failed, but I want to just see his reaction to that after getting beat down by him, right? But no, Aizawa was in the background, and he's just kind of watching Mirio and how he uses his quirk to fight and everything, and his skill, and he's like, Mirio Togata, I could see him becoming the #1 hero, and that's including the pros, okay? And Aizawa doesn't say stuff like that, you know, like light as a feather. He doesn't say that stuff like, oh yes, and whatever. No, he has a good eye for... He has a good eye for heroes and stuff. He's been observing pros for a very long time now. When Aizawa says something like that, he didn't say it out loud. I think he was just thinking it to himself. But the fact that he had that thought about Mirio being the #1 hero, he has a pretty good shot at doing that. And that includes, you know, Endeavor and Edge Shot, all the pros, the sexy, muscly, you know, rabbit girl hero, you know, all of them. He's like, I could totally see Mirio after he graduates and gets into the pro scene. He could rise to the ranks pretty damn fast with his skill and his charisma and his quirk and all that stuff, right? So let's talk about that for a moment. Beyond just with his, you know, hard work and dedication, training with his quirk for years and years to the point where he could become a great hero in his own right, he was also the most likely candidate to receive One for All from All Might, right? Now, at first, that's like just an interesting, maybe a little trivia blurb in the background, because we know Izuku is the main character of this story. He's the one that met All Might, and he got the quirk that way. And then later on, like well after the fact, like over 100 chapters later, we find out, oh yeah, if Izuku had a cold that day, like if Izuku just stayed inside and just stayed home from school that day because he had a fever and he never met All Might, yeah, most likely Mirio was going to be the one to receive it. But it goes beyond just that little trivia note, okay? That actually sets up a lot of, that raises the bar for Mirio exponentially, right? And I think Horikoshi handled it really good. I always gush about Horikoshi's writing ability. I think he's one of the best writers in Shonen Jump, you know, come at me. But the point is, it's like, no, he had to make Mirio a character that you could actually genuinely believe that he could be the main character of this entire story if Izuku wasn't there, or if he missed All Might on that particular day, okay? And from everything we've seen with Mirio, just so far in the anime, not even really getting into spoiler material yet, but just so far in the anime, yeah, I could totally see him as receiving that mantle of One for All and taking it on and, you know, carrying on All Might's legacy as his successor. Let me ask you a serious question. I want a serious answer, you know? If we did like a spin-off manga, like a what-if scenario, like what if Mirio Togata did receive One for All from All Might at the beginning of the manga, and we, you know, go into that to see how he would have trained with it and everything, would you not be interested in reading that? I would definitely be interested. I would love it. You know, maybe just going on like a few dozen chapters just to get like a what-if scenario going on and how he would handle it, how he would combine it with his permeation quirk and everything, and his rise to become the greatest hero. That could totally work. Of course, I love Izuku. I love what Izuku's all about and everything, but that's the cool thing about Horikoshi, is that he can write other characters, so it's like, all right, you're not just purely focused on the MC. You know, a lot of these other characters have a really, really interesting backgrounds and personalities too, and if you were going to swap out, and I think that's what Horikoshi's really trying to do in a lot of arcs, he's just like, okay, I want to make a main cast of characters where I can switch out, you know, like instead of Izuku being the main character for this arc, I'll have Bakugo or Shoto or Mirio be a main character for an arc, and it can still work. The story can still flow without Izuku being the center of attention. I love Izuku. He's a cool character and all that stuff, and he's a great successor to One for All, or he's going to be a great successor eventually. But I'm just saying, Mirio could have fit into that mold as well, and I would have loved to see like a parallel what-if story from that perspective, and I think it would sell like hotcakes if that was actually done. Maybe like a 5-6 little mini-series volume, parallel universe My Hero Academia. I would definitely read that. You know, Mirio is someone that truly embodies like the best of the teachings of UA, and adds his own little flair to it and created a hero persona that is truly ideal in this post-All Might world that we're living in right now. Mirio, of course, looked up to All Might, as I'm sure everybody else did. We don't forget, like, you know, not as much as Izuku, where he was crazy about All Might, but everybody kind of looks up to All Might, so Mirio probably did as well. But considering the way he acts, like, yeah, he's comedic, he likes to have fun and be jovial, and, you know, when he takes down a villain, I'm sure he'll have a nice little quip, a nice little one-liner afterwards, and the people could truly truly cheer for him. Like when he shouts power at the top of his lungs, all the little kids below are like, yeah, Mirio Lemillion, power, go! You know, I'm already seeing the merchandise right now. But he can also be 100% serious when he needs to be. Don't let the emoji face fool you. You know, when he first appeared, I'm just looking at him. I'm like, okay, well, I like his design. I like his quirk. It's interesting. But is he a guy that's just going to be played for laughs, or are we going to have some range with him? And you know what? It's also kind of a trick there with like doing a face the way Mirio's face looks, but also making it look very serious. And like he's like, no, he has a big range of emotion. Horikoshi makes that work as well. So I'm just like gushing over this guy, but seriously, yeah, he makes it work. Mirio is like, yeah, I'm fun, jovial, having fun joking around with my underclassmen, but when the heat's on and I actually have to go up and do a serious mission as a hero, you know, I can flip that switch and get the job done as quickly and as like cleanly as possible, the best way a hero can accomplish it, while also inspiring people around me to do it. You know, if I was going to UA and, you know, Mirio is my upperclassman, he's like the valedictorian of UA for that one particular year, you can't look at him and just be like, oh man, he doesn't deserve it, or man, he sucks, I have such a problem with that guy. No, this is like an upperclassman you would look up to. This like, man, I want to be more like him. And that's kind of the whole ideal, you know, that the upperclassmen of UA are supposed to embody, right? You know, all the big three as well, Hato and Amajiki, even though Amajiki's a little bit more, you know, morose with things, you know, they're all people that you wouldn't want to strive to become in terms of like the way they use their quirk and all the hard work they've put into it, to the point where they haven't even graduated yet, but they're still like pro heroes essentially in the way that they fight, right? And I'll be talking about the rest of the big three. I'll be talking about Hato and Amajiki in later videos, but today is a Mirio day. Fun fact, something I just found out while doing research for this. Did you know that Izuku and Mirio share the same birthday? Yeah? I feel like Horikoshi had to do that on purpose, just because, you know, Izuku is the true successor for One for All, the one that actually, you know, received it, and Mirio was supposed to receive it in that, like, parallel universe. He was gonna get it, right? So he decided, yeah, I'm gonna make it even more creepy by adding it so that they both have the same birthday. Interesting. So his quirk is permeation, which, if you just want the abridged version on paper, very simple quirk that allows him to phase through solid matter. Off of paper and how it's practically utilized and how it's like, you know, how Mirio had to train with it to get stronger and how to make it work effectively, way more complex, okay? I'm glad they went into so much detail with this and they didn't just write it off, and that's how all of the students originally felt, like, oh man, you were blessed with such a naturally great quirk. You know, because I could see that as a lot of ways that, like, you know, freshmen and like middle schoolers probably view quirks. It's just like, it's the luck of the draw. You know, some people have some good quirks right out of the gate and other people don't, right? Now, in some cases that is true. I mean, there's people in My Hero Academia that have like quirks that aren't really suited for battle. Like, my quirk allows me to turn the color green whenever I want. You know, versus the kid that has the ability to fly, or the kid that has the ability to lift up a freaking bulldozer and throw it 3 miles, you know? So yeah, there are some quirks that right out of the gate are not equal there, but in Mirio's case, that wasn't really reality, you know? He talks about how, no, when I was a kid and I had my quirk, I didn't even know how to use it. You have to be very careful with a quirk like permeation, right? You're not careful, you'll slip right through the crust and fall into the center of the earth, probably. You just keep falling, and then you just end up on the other side. You pop out in freaking India or whatever and be like, oh, okay, I guess if they're in Japan, if they fell, they'd end up in, like, South America somewhere. They pop out in Brazil, like, you know, naked in Brazil. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna head back home now, and he permeates back to the other side. Okay, so, the detail that I was really interested in, and the thing that actually makes this quirk even more crazy, is whenever Mirio is, turning his head permeable, nothing can enter it, you know, because it's permeable, you know, it's intangible. So sound does not vibrate his eardrums, light does not enter his retinas, smells, all that stuff goes straight through him. So I want you to, my bed broke, I want you to imagine this, like, especially in one of those last episodes of the anime when Mirio is running through Chisaki's compound, you know, and the walls are undulating and they're being modified by that guy with the mimic quirk, and Mirio is so casually just running through the walls after wall with his permeation quirk. Every single time he's running through that wall, he's literally deaf and blind. Okay? Like, imagine that. Like, that's something that really has to take a long time to master, because every time he activates it, I mean, not every part of his body. He can choose, pick and choose which parts to go permeable, just his hand, just his leg, or just his torso, or his whole body, or whatever. But every time he's phasing through walls like that, his literally sensory information just gets cut off for that moment while he's passing through matter, and then it returns when he enters the other side. All right? That is, in order just to get used to that alone, it probably took years and years of training, which we discuss. We don't go into like full detail of all the training that Mirio did, but he went through a hell of a lot of it, all right, to get to that point where he can kind of like anticipate what's going to happen and be like, all right, so just the fact that he could not freak out when you just immediately all of your senses just get cut off and everything goes black into the void for like a couple of seconds while you're fed. You still have to keep aware of yourself, though. It's just like he could still move his body while he's permeable. He just can't see or hear or smell anything. So when all of that information just gets cut off, he has to remember, all right, keep moving, I'm in a wall, all right, I'm out of the wall, turn it off, all right, here comes another wall. What I would do if I had that power, if I was running up to a wall, I would just like jump and then go permeable, and then just kind of like time it in my head, like, all right, I'm phasing through a wall, time it, like 1, 2, 3, back again, all right, just keep running and then run, 1, 2, okay, I'm good. Maybe that is kind of the trick of what he does, I'm not really sure, but Mirio is someone that is like, once again, an inspiration to the underclassmen of UA that's like, hey, if you have a quirk that you don't think is that great, or a quirk that you think is overshadowed by a lot of other people, you look at the pros, like Mount Lady, that has the ability to turn giant size, and my quirk, all I do is like I harden my skin a little bit, like Hiroshima, or Minetta's got his balls, It's just like he's telling everybody he's an inspirational story. He's just like, no. You work hard, you could turn any quirk into being, worthy of a true hero, all right? It might take a long time depending on the quirk. There are some people that are naturally blessed with amazing quirks, but for the rest of us, we got to work our asses off, but when we do it, it can even be more effective than those pros. So, it's like, don't give up hope, everybody. We got this. We can all do this together as UA students, right? Okay, Skull Pride, let's do it. What's the UA mascot? Doesn't UA have a mascot? You'd figure they would. The UA Badgers? I don't know. Okay. Well, anyway, that's pretty much everything I wanted to discuss, spoiler free. All right? So we'll take a minor Mirio break here, and then when we come back, we're going to go dive head foot into spoiler material all over the place. There's going to be spoilers splattered all over this room. So if that's not for you, I'm telling you to skip out right now. Or if you're one of those adventurous souls that doesn't read the manga, but you still want to know about what's going on with Mirio, then venture into the forbidden zone. But be warned, you might not like what you hear. All right, here we go. Freaking sucks Mirio lost his quirk, right? Damn it! It's like, son of a... He's so cool and he can slip through things. This is a great quirk. He trained with it his entire life. There was that moment with his dad, because his dad has the same quirk, the permeation quirk, and he's like, Dad, I want to be a hero. And he's like, son, our quirks are really hard to handle. I never really got the grasp on it myself. And Mirio's like, well, I'm going to train with my quirk, Dad, and I'm going to be the best. And like years of hard work through elementary, middle school, all those years of hardship at UA, eventually mastering the quirk the way he could, and he freaking loses it. I'm like, man, all right. The big question on everybody's mind is he gonna get his quirk back? All right, now, do you want him to get his quirk back? Let's talk about that first. Comment that below. I want to hear different perspectives on this, because I've seen a bunch of different ideas here. I've seen people, of course, say basically the whole rant I just had, like, yes, Mirio deserves to get his quirk back. He worked on it for way too long. He needs to be a great hero. He wants to save 1 million people. He needs his quirk for that. It was such a sick quirk. That one ability he used against Chisake, the Phantom Menace, which was like the coolest thing ever attached to the Star Wars prequels ever, aside from Darth Maul and General Grievous. I know a lot of people gush over Darth Maul. I like Grievous more. He just looked cool, okay? I know he didn't have much in the story, but Grievous looked pretty badass, right? But no, yeah, he had some really cool abilities and all that stuff. You want to see him get him back again. But I can also see the other camp the other camp of like, all right, well, he doesn't have a quirk anymore, but he can be a hero in other ways. He still stays positive. He's not letting that, like, get him down or falling into a deep wave of depression. Like, my quirk was the only thing that mattered for me, and now that it's gone, I'm nothing anymore. No, he's still very much Mirio. He is kind of assuming the role of cheering Eri up now, kind of like being her like big brother sort of character here. It's just like, no, my job is to kind of heal this girl from all of the hardships she had with Chisaki and everything, bringing her to the cultural fest and all that. And yeah, Eri might have the key to, saving Mirio's quirk. They even talked about that. That was one of the first things they brought up, because in the same arc where Mirio loses his quirk, we introduce a girl that can literally rewind existence. So a lot of people were curious, like, all right. And then they bring that up. They're like, yeah, after Eri, after she, recovers from all of the trauma from Chisaki and the Hasaikai and all that, and after she improves use of her quirk, perhaps someday I can get my quirk back the way that it was. We can rewind that and we can go back to the time before the bullet hit me and I can, have my quirk again, right? So they definitely set up possibilities, but Mirio even goes on to state, like, if that doesn't work, if even after Eri masters her quirk, it still doesn't bring mine back, we'll look for other perspectives. But you get the idea from Mirio that, like, his quirk did not define him. It was still it was a really cool ability, but he, as a character and as a person that wants to save people, it's not like just, oh, he lost his quirk, so he's no longer interesting, he's no longer relevant to the story. He is still very relevant to the story, right? So I could see people taking the angle of like, hey, he could spend the rest of his life without a quirk, but he could still save people in a variety of other ways. My mind flashes back to when All Might first met Izuku, and he says to him, like, hey, I honestly don't think you could be a hero without a quirk. I don't think it's possible, but hey, there's plenty of other ways that you can save the world. You can go be a member of the police. I know they don't get a lot of, fame anymore because heroes are a thing. They're not as flashy as the heroes, but they still do really good work. It's a great profession. You could do something like that. Mirio, I could see Mirio as a police officer. Let's all picture Mirio as a police officer right now. You can see it, can't you? It works, right? So there's that idea too. And also, just from a storytelling perspective, once again, you have to handle this very carefully. All right, you can't just have it like a quick fix, like, oh no, Mirio got his quirk removed. Oh, it's cool. We whipped up a magic cure in the lab. Here you go. I'm back in action, right? Nothing like that, because that takes away kind of all the weight of it. But I still want him to get his quirk back just because of all the work he put into it. So I'm personally in that camp, but what do you think? Now, talking about the way that his quirk was actually removed from him, how he's not able to use it anymore. So those bullets that the Hasaikai used, they basically infused Eri's blood in there, and they did some other, chemical mixtures and stuff, basically to make it to the point that whenever these bullets hit you, they affect your quirk factor, and they regress that to a point, because Eri's quirk is rewind, not just rewinding things in the physical sense, like she can do that too, like she could, like, take a broken or cracked vase and rewind it so it's not broken anymore. She can rewind people back, so you can take a 20-year-old and rewind them back to being an infant if she wanted to. But something more interesting, the way Chisaki talked about it, was like she could probably even rewind like genetics themselves, like literally rewinding like the human genome until you turn back into like like Homo erectus or something. Like she can literally rewind you through your evolutionary development, all right? Which she can't control that yet because she's a child, right? But the potential is definitely there. So the idea is that those special bullets, the one that hit Mirio, regressed his quirk factor to a point in its evolutionary line before it existed. So going back through the generations into the time before the quirk phenomenon began in the world, before everybody had superpowers, and so now it's non-existent. It got like withered away, and so now we know, like, it would be like something similar to like affecting human genetics to the point we no longer had thumbs, regressing us back to the point beyond our ape ancestors, and to the point where we just no longer, we were like fish, like something like that, where we no longer had thumbs to work with, right? Something like that, but only affecting the quirk factor, okay? Now, if that's the case, Mirio's kind of shit out of luck, because like, unless Eri figures out a way to cancel her rewind, because she doesn't have free reign to go rewind and then fast forward. All right, I don't think she has the ability to do that. She just has the ability to rewind certain events, okay? So unless Eri can somehow freely figure out a way to just, like, touch something and cancel the effects of her quirk altogether, then maybe, okay? But if it's something that affects Mirio's genetics to that point, then yeah, I don't know if they're going to figure out a cure for that, because it's just like it no longer exists. It's nothing to cure because his body, part of his body, that one particular quirk factor aspect of it got removed or regressed to a point that it's no longer able to function. Okay, so there's that. Something else that I thought about. Because Eri, those bullets, they talked about that was like the perfected bullet, the one that hit Mirio that actually takes away your quirk forever, because they used them against Amajiki, and it just took away his quirk for like a little bit, but it eventually recovered from it. So the way they talked about it, like, oh yeah, that was the perfected one, it finally succeeded. Well, Mirio is the only one that it was really used on, so how do you know for certain that that's like the perfected bullet? Maybe it wasn't perfected. Maybe there were a few faults with it. Maybe it takes away your quirk for an extremely long period of time, but it's not absolute. It's not permanent, because you didn't really have time to test this on everybody. That was kind of like the prototype that they used against Mirio, right? So here's what I thought. All right, and this is not the best case scenario, but at least it gives hope that he will get his quirk back, okay? What if that bullet regressed his quirk back to before he was born? And so now it's like, because you don't get your quirk immediately out of the womb. Some people do, some people don't. Some people don't activate their quirk until they're like 2, 3, 4 years old or whatever, okay? So what if it regressed his quirk back to that point where right now he doesn't have access to his quirk because he didn't have access to it when he was like just born? Okay, so he's literally like a quirk newborn right now in an adult body, all right? So maybe give it like however long it took him to, let's say he awakened his quirk or first started to manifest his permeation quirk when he was like 6 months old or something like that. And 6 months, after the events of Chisake, he starts to develop his permeation quirk, but it lacks all of the training that he went through. So he literally has to start from the ground up. Now, you might be thinking, well, that kind of sucks, and it does. It's like, playing a Pokemon game, and it's like you got everybody level 100, you're awesome, and then it gets erased, and it's like, all right, gotta start with that Squirtle at level 5 again. Doesn't know any of the moves I taught it, doesn't have any of the EVs or IVs, all the breeding I did so much breeding, and all that just got taken away, But yeah, it might be suckish, but do you think Mirio would be upset about that? I don't think he would be. I think Mirio, even right now without a quirk, he's still going on ahead. I think if Mirio did start to, like, if that actually happened, like, oh my god, I still have my quirk, but it's, like, really unstable because it's, like, a newborn's quirk that I don't have really control over yet. I have to start all over from phase 1, and I could see other people looking at Mirio like, Mirio, that sucks. Like, Hato and Amajiki would be like, Mirio, I'm so sorry, man. That's all that hard work. But I could see Mirio just being like, this is awesome! I get to start all over again! I get to experience all the joys of my training all over again, one more time, right? I can see Mirio kind of taking, life by its reins and just going with it. Also, he would get a jump on it because unlike, when he was an actual little kid and he was starting from, like, literal zero, he had no idea where this to go. I mean, he had a general idea because, like I said, his dad had the same quirk, but he trained it to something even greater than his father. Anybody else in his family probably had this permeation quirk, right? So he was kind of grasping at straws, I'm sure, in a few points. Like, I'm not sure where to take it yet or how to master it, but now at least, yeah, he understands. It's just that it's still probably going to take a couple years to get back up to where he's at, even if he's taking the express route this time, right? Because we learned during the forest training arc, like, quirks are a lot like your muscles. They get stronger by, pushing them forward, and they get broken, and then they heal, and get stronger and stronger and stronger, and you repeat that. like let's say, you've been training to be a professional basketball player your entire life, and you're like age 30, and you're like in the peak of maybe like age 25. You're like the peak of your physical condition, and you go to the gym and you work out all the time, and you're like the best basketball player, right? Well, let's say something happens like with Mirio, where all of a sudden your muscles just regress to what they were when you were like 12 or 13 years old, and it's just like all of that hard work's gone. Yeah, you might know the method of, okay, I know how to train, I know what I need to do to get stronger, I know what I need to do to get back up to that point, but it's still gonna take a while, all right? It's not gonna be like an overnight thing, right? Where you gotta start back up from where you started, right? So, yeah, but I could see Mirio being, taking life by its reins and just pressing on forward. And that's really what Mirio, I think, embodies to me. He's just like, we're heroes, and a lot of stuff happens to heroes, but the one thing that we can never really do or let ourselves succumb to is despair. Because we're the people that everybody's looking at. Okay, we're the people that, most of society looks to for inspiration. Like, well, the world might be going to hell right now with all these villains attacking everything, but the heroes are always standing tall, always protecting everybody. All Might did it with his great smile, and Mirio just does it with his positive optimism attitude. I mean, he's a little bit optimistic to a fault, maybe sometimes. Like I said, he has a range of emotions, but, just like, oh yeah, I had my quirk taken away from me, and he's in the hospital just kind of doing like he's doing this weird handstand thing, which I've done it before too. It's like, hey, Izuku, what's going on? Yeah, I'm just doing this, whatever, just hanging out, So it's like, okay, Mirio, I mean, it's okay for you to be upset a little bit about the fact that you lost literally the thing that allowed you to become a pro hero, and you trained with for like, over a decade of your existence. Yeah, I mean, it's okay to be a little upset about that. No one's gonna be mad if you just like, or be upset if you're just like punched a wall or something, like, yeah, that sucks. But no, Mirio just like, nope, this is, hey, listen, like, I think he just embodies that idea of like, there's nothing I can do about it, right? Like, it's just like, look, my quirk got taken away by an external factor, by this weird bullet. Let the brainiacs figure this out. There's people out there, they're going to be probably doing tests on me and taking blood samples and figuring out what happened, and they might develop some kind of cure for this, they might not. You have Eri there, who might develop her quirk to the point where she can reverse this, but maybe not. That's the cool thing about Mirio also. The reason he's hanging out with Eri and trying to be like a supportive big brother to her, it's not because of like, I was like, hey Eri, yeah, hey, if you train with your quirk, you can fix me, right? No, it's like he genuinely cares for her, especially since, the scene in the anime where he like, well, yeah, it's already been in the anime where he like, they run into her in the alleyway and then they have to leave her with Chisaki, so he cares about her in that regard. He's like, I just want this girl to grow up and live a normal life. Learn how to use her quirk so she doesn't hurt anybody else. Remember, Eri accidentally erased her dad from existence. So, yeah, don't screw with Eri, right? So, Mirio just wants to support her as best as he can, have her live like a normal life as a child, considering she never had that. So, she already missed out on a big chunk of her childhood, so maybe she can recapture that a little bit now with him and, Aizawa kind of looking after her and everything. And, yeah, though, I mean, I'm sure if Eri does improve with her quirk and learn how to use it in the actual way, where she could maybe nullify it, reverse the effects of Mirio, or just cancel her quirk altogether, yeah, Eri would definitely do that, because she would know it's like the right thing to do in that situation, not because Mirio prompts her or anything like that, right? So, yeah, I'm under the impression that he's gonna get his quirk back, either in full capacity or, like I said, like starting back up from zero, but I do think he's going to get it back at some point. I don't think we're going to go the route with him not having his quirk and like, it's like, okay, well, I don't have a quirk, but I'll be a police officer and save people that way. I mean, you could go with that. I just don't see that happening, okay? But let me know what you feel about that below, what you think about Mirio's character, and we'll move on to the rest of the big three after this. We'll do a Hado video and an Amajiki video. I would like to say probably out of the big three, you know what? I was Amajiki's like here and Mirio's here. It's really close, and they tend to switch in my mind, in terms of like who's my favorite. But Amajiki's definitely a big contender as well, and kind of like a parallel to, or like a contrast to Mirio a little bit. But he's still a great hero, so I'll get to him. I'll probably in the next video we'll talk about Amajiki, and then after that we'll go to Hado. Thanks for watching, everybody. Continue to check out season 4 of My Hero Academia. This is Tekking signing out. Permeation. Gotta fix my bed now.